Hello, my friend. Welcome to the English Talk community, the podcast where you practice real English in a calm, clear, and encouraging way. I'm David, and I'm really glad you're here today. This is your time to focus on your English, to take one small step forward, and to feel more confident. Let me ask you something. Have you ever listened to a podcast, a YouTube video, or even a native speaker and felt completely lost? You understood a few words here and there, but the full message just flew by. Maybe it felt like the words were too fast, too complicated, or too unfamiliar. If that sounds like you are definitely not alone. In fact, this is one of the most common struggles for English learners around the world. Today, we're going to talk about how to fix that. And no, I'm not going to tell you to study more grammar or memorize more vocabulary lists. That's not what you need right now. What you need is a smarter way to listen. In this episode, I'm going to introduce you to the power of active listening. This simple but powerful mindset can completely change the way you listen to English. It helps you focus better, understand more, and feel more relaxed even when you hear fast or unfamiliar speech. So, what exactly is active listening? Let's slow it down and really explore it together. Active listening means you're not just letting English flow into your ears. You're not just hearing, you're fully present. You're paying attention. You're thinking. You're connecting. It sounds with meaning. You're listening with a purpose. Most people listen passively. Maybe they're watching a video while cooking or playing a podcast while scrolling through their phone. They're hearing words, but they're not really processing the ideas. Their mind is somewhere else. But you, right now, can choose something different. You can choose to listen actively. Active listening is when you give your full attention to what you're hearing. You're not thinking about lunch or your to-do list. You're here with me, in this moment, listening not just with your ears, but with your mind. You're asking yourself, what is David trying to say? What's the main idea? What can I take away from this? You don't need to understand every word. Let me say that again. You don't need to understand every single word. That's not the goal. The goal is to understand the message, the idea behind the words. When you focus on meaning instead of perfection, your brain starts to work differently. You relax more. You pick up on patterns. You start to recognize familiar sounds. And over time, your brain connects those sounds with ideas faster and more naturally. It's like training a muscle. You don't become strong by thinking about lifting weights. You become strong by practicing, by showing up again and again with focus and intention. Listening is the same. The more you practice active listening, the better your brain becomes at processing English. So today, I'm going to walk you through 5 simple but powerful techniques that will help you become a better listener. These are things you can start using today, and they don't require any special tools or apps. All you need is your attention, your curiosity, and a few minutes of focus. In the next part, we'll begin with the first technique, how to prepare your brain before you even start listening. It's a small change, but it can make a big difference. So, take a breath, relax your shoulders, you're in the right place. I'm David, and this is the English Talk community. Let's grow together. Let's dive into the first technique. This one might surprise you because it's something you do before you start listening. It happens even before you press play on a podcast or video. The technique is predict before you listen. Now, you might ask, David, what do you mean by predict? That's a great question. To predict means to guess what might happen. You're not trying to be perfect. You're just warming up your brain. You're preparing your mind to listen more actively and more effectively. Think of it like stretching before a run. You don't start sprinting right away. You warm up first, so your body is ready. It's the same with listening. You get your brain ready for what it's about to hear. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're about to listen to a podcast about travel. Before you press play, stop for just 10 seconds and ask yourself, what do I expect to hear? Maybe you'll hear words like passport, airport, hotel, or suitcase. Maybe you'll hear phrases like catch a flight or book a room. These are just guesses. They don't have to be perfect. What matters is this: by making predictions, you activate your brain. Your mind starts looking for patterns, words, and ideas that match what you imagined. That makes it easier to understand what you hear. You'll recognize familiar sounds faster, and you'll feel more in control while listening. Here's another situation. You see the title of a YouTube video. How to cook the perfect pasta before clicking pause. Ask yourself, what will they probably talk about? Maybe they'll mention boiling water, adding salt, stirring the pasta, or timing the cooking. Again, just guess. Then, when the speaker starts talking, your brain is already in the topic. You're not going in cold, you're ready. You already have a little mental map to help you follow the message. This is exactly what native speakers do without thinking. When you speak your own language, you're always predicting. You hear the beginning of a sentence and already know how it might end. That's how human communication works. We're always filling in the gaps based on what we expect. Now, as an English learner, you can train this skill to. It's simple, but it works. And you can start right away. Here's a small challenge for you. The next time you're about to listen to something in English, anything at all, take a few seconds before it starts. Ask yourself, what do I think this is about? What words or topics might I hear? What kind of tone or style will it have? You don't need to write anything down. Just think, just prepare. This tiny moment of prediction gives your brain a huge advantage. You go from a passive listener to an active one. Your focus improves. Your comprehension improves. And best of all, you feel more confident because you know what to expect. Let's try a quick practice together. Imagine you're going to hear a short story about a woman who lost her keys in a park. What might you expect to hear? You might hear she went for a walk, she had her keys in her pocket, she sat on a bench. Later, she realized the keys were gone. She searched under trees near the fountain and around the playground. You just predicted the story. Maybe not exactly, but close enough to follow what's coming. And that's the power of this technique. So remember, before you listen, stop and predict. Give your brain a chance to warm up. Ask questions, make guesses. Activate your attention before the first word is even spoken. That's what active listeners do. Let's move to the second technique. This one is so important, and I know it will help you feel more relaxed while listening to English. The technique is simple, but powerful. Focus on the main idea, every word. Now, I know how easy it is to panic when you hear a word you don't understand. Maybe you're watching a video, and suddenly the speaker uses an expression you've never heard before. Your brain freezes. You stop paying attention because you're stuck thinking, what does that word mean? But here's the truth. You don't need to understand every word to understand the message. In fact, native speakers do this all the time, even in their own language. They don't catch every single word. They listen for the overall meaning. They focus on the big picture. You can do the same. Let me give you an example. Imagine someone says, I didn't go to the party because I had a splitting headache. Now, maybe you've never heard the word splitting. That's okay. Let's break it down. First, you know they didn't go to the party. Second, you know they had a headache. Third, that headache was the reason. So even if splitting is new for you, you still understand the main idea. They stayed home because they felt bad. That's success. You understood the point without knowing every word. That's how real listening works. Let's try another one. We ran into some unexpected delays at the airport, but we finally made it to Paris last night. Now maybe ran into or delays are unfamiliar, but again focus on what you do understand. You hear something happened at the airport, there were some problems or changes, but in the end, they arrived in Paris. That's the main idea. This is the kind of listening skill that makes you feel confident because you stop chasing perfection. You start trusting yourself. You don't freeze when something sounds new or strange. You just keep going, looking for clues, building the message in your mind. And the more you practice this, the better you get. Over time, words that used to feel difficult will become familiar. And even when you still hear something new, you'll know how to stay calm and focused. Now, here's a practical tip. When you're listening to a podcast, a video, or a conversation, try asking yourself these 3 questions. What's the topic? What's the speaker trying to say? What is the main point or message? These questions guide your attention toward, meaning not individual words. That's a huge shift in mindset and it helps you become a smarter, calmer, more effective listener. Let's take a short moment to reflect. Think back to the last time you listened to something in English. Did you try to understand every word? Did you pause often or feel frustrated when a word didn't make sense? Now imagine if you had just focused on the idea, the message. You probably would have felt more confident. You probably would have enjoyed it more. So, from now on, give yourself permission to let go of perfection. You are not a machine. You are a human learning a beautiful new language. That process takes time and kindness to yourself. And here's the good news. If you can understand the general idea of what someone is saying, you're already succeeding. In the next part, we'll talk about another powerful habit. Why listening more than once can unlock deeper understanding and help you notice things you missed the first time. Now let's talk about a technique that many learners forget, but it's one of the most effective ways to train your ears and your brain. The third technique is this: listen more than once. That's right, don't just listen one time, listen again and again. Why? Because your brain needs time to adjust. The first time you hear something in English, your brain is doing a lot of work. It's trying to catch the sounds, understand the accent, follow the rhythm, and figure out the meaning all at the same time. That's a lot. So, maybe the first time, you only understand a little, maybe just a few words or the basic topic. And that's totally okay. That's normal. But then, you listen again, and the second time, something amazing happens. Your brain already knows what's coming, so it relaxes a little. Now, it can focus more on the details. You start to hear more words. You recognize patterns. You begin to notice how the speaker connects ideas, how they use intonation and pauses. By the third time, it's like discovering a new layer. You hear a word you missed before, you catch a phrase that now makes sense, you even begin to predict what's coming next. This is how real listening develops layer by layer, just like learning a song. Think about music. Have you ever listened to a song for the first time and thought, not sure I understand the lyrics? But then, after the second or third time, you start to sing along, the words become clearer, the melody becomes familiar. You even begin to feel something from the song. It's the same with English. You don't need to push yourself to understand everything the first time. That's too much pressure. Instead, make listening a process. Let each repetition teach you something new. Let me give you a small exercise you can try today. Take a short English audio, maybe a podcast episode, a YouTube clip, or even a part of this episode, and follow these steps. First, listen. Just listen. Don't pause. Don't take notes. Just enjoy and try to catch the topic. Second, listen. Now, listen again. This time, focus on the structure. How does the speaker begin? What words are repeated? Third, listen. Listen one more time. Now, try to repeat small phrases out loud. You'll notice how your brain remembers more and your pronunciation improves naturally. Each listen gives you something different. Each listen builds your confidence. And this habit, listening multiple times, is something even advanced learners continue to use. You see, the key to progress isn't doing something perfectly once. It's doing it simply and consistently, again and again. So, don't be afraid to repeat. Don't feel like you're wasting time. You're not. You're building depth. You're building understanding, you're building fluency. And here's a little secret: the more you repeat, the faster your brain learns. Repetition is not boring, it's smart. It's what your brain needs to turn something new into something automatic. So next time you finish listening to something in English, pause for a moment and ask yourself, can I listen to this again? Can I hear it one more time and catch something new? That small choice will take you a long way. In the next part, we'll explore how to understand new words even if you've never seen them before by using the context around them. It's a superpower that every English learner can develop. Let's continue. One of the biggest challenges for English learners is this moment. You're listening, everything is going well, and suddenly boom, a word appears that you don't know. It stops you. It distracts you. You start thinking, what does that mean? And before you know it, you've missed the rest of the sentence. Sound familiar? Here's the good news. You don't have to stop. You don't have to understand every single word. What you really need is the ability to understand the meaning of the sentence even when one or two words are unfamiliar. How do you do that? With context. Context means everything around the word, the situation, the other words, the tone of voice, the setting. All of these help you guess the meaning even if you've never seen that word before. Let me give you an example. Imagine you hear someone say, after walking all day without eating, I was starving. Now, let's say you don't know the word starving. That's okay, but you heard the sentence. The person walked all day, they didn't eat. So you can guess, starving probably means very hungry. You didn't need a dictionary. You just used the story, the situation, the context, and your guess is correct. Starving means extremely hungry. Here's another one. You're listening to a podcast, and the speaker says, it started pouring right before I got home. Maybe you've never heard the word pouring, but the way the sentence is said, maybe you hear the tone. Maybe you know it was right before they got home. Maybe you hear a sigh or a laugh, and maybe, just maybe, you remember that pouring is often used with rain, so you guess it started raining hard. And you're right, this is how native speakers understand their own language. Not every word is instantly clear, but the context gives clues. And your brain is smart enough to figure it out if you let it. So, next time you're listening and a new word appears, don't pause the audio. Don't stop and look it up immediately. Instead, keep listening. Trust the sentence, trust the moment. Let your brain guess then, after you finish listening, if the word still feels important or if you hear it again, can check it, but not during listening. Your job is to stay connected to the message. This also trains you to be more comfortable with not knowing everything. And that's a powerful skill, not just for English, but for life. Let me give you a small practice idea. Choose an English audio clip, something short, maybe 2 or 3 minutes. As you listen, make a small note every time you hear a word you don't know. Don't stop the audio. Don't rewind, just keep going. Then, after it ends, go back and look at your notes. Try to remember what was happening in that moment. What was the speaker talking about? What were the other words? Try to guess the meaning based on that. Finally, check to see if you were right. You'll be surprised. Most of the time your brain gets very close even if you've never seen the word before. That's the power of context. It's your brain's secret tool, and the more you use it, the stronger it gets. So remember, you don't need perfect vocabulary. You need smart listening. And part of smart listening is learning to trust the big picture more than the tiny pieces. Let me ask you something. Have you ever tried to listen to an English podcast while scrolling through your phone? Or maybe while cleaning the kitchen? Or checking messages? Be honest, we've all done it. We try to be efficient. We think, I'll practice my English while I do something else. And yes, sometimes that's okay. It's better than nothing. But if your goal is to really understand what you hear, if your goal is to improve your listening skills deeply, then multitasking won't help. Here's why. Your brain is powerful, but it can only give real attention to one thing at a time. When you divide your attention, Your understanding becomes weaker. You miss words, you miss meaning. You hear, but you don't really listen. Listening in a foreign language already requires more effort than in your native language. It's like lifting weights. If you lift with both hands, you get stronger. But if you're distracted checking your phone or thinking about what's for dinner, your focus disappears. Your progress slows down. So today's message is simple. Give your listening full attention, even if it's only for a short time. You don't need an hour. Start with 5 minutes. But in those 5 minutes, be 100% present. Imagine you're listening to a friend. Someone is telling you about their day, their story, their feelings. You wouldn't scroll through Instagram while they speak. You'd look them in the eye. You'd give them respect. Listening to English deserves the same respect because you're not just learning a language, you're learning how to connect with people. And that begins with attention. So, how do you stop multitasking? One simple way is to create a small ritual, a daily habit. Maybe each morning before work, you sit with a coffee and listen to 3 minutes of English. No phone, no distractions, just you and the language. Or maybe at night, you take a walk with your headphones, no messages, no news, just a story in English. When you listen like this, your brain enters a different mode. It begins to focus. It begins to learn. You also begin to enjoy it more. You hear the sounds better. You notice patterns. You connect ideas. It's not just noise, it becomes something real. Let me give you an example. A student of mine, Laura, used to listen to English podcasts while cooking, but she often got frustrated. I don't remember anything I heard, she said, so I asked her to try something different. I said, for 5 minutes each day, do nothing else. Just listen. She agreed. At first, it felt strange, just sitting and listening. That felt too slow. But 2 weeks later, she came back and said, David, I'm surprised I understand more, and I remember more. It feels easier. Why? Because she stopped multitasking. She gave her brain time to focus, and that made all the difference. So my invitation for you today is simple. Don't just listen to English, be with it. Make time for it. Even 5 minutes of focused listening each day is better than 30 minutes of distracted listening. It's not about quantity, it's about presence. And presence is powerful. Remember, this is not about being perfect. It's about building habits that help your brain do what it's made to. Do learn, adapt, grow. So tomorrow, find a quiet moment. Put on your headphones, breathe, press play, and just listen. That's where the real magic happens. You're not alone on this journey. I'm here with you every step. So here we are at the end of today's episode. If you've been with me this whole time, first of all, congratulations. That means you're committed. That means you're serious about improving your English. And that means you've already done something powerful. You've listened with intention. Think back to everything we explored today. We started by talking about something simple, yet so important: active listening. The idea that to truly learn from what we hear, we have to be more than just passive. We have to show up. We have to be present. Then, step by step, we talked through ways you can do exactly that. You learned how powerful it is to predict before you listen, how activating your brain beforehand prepares you to catch more. You learned why trying to understand the main idea is often better than focusing on every single word. You discovered how listening multiple times to the same audio isn't boring, it's smart. Every time you go back, your brain finds something new. Then we talked about how you can use context to unlock new words. You don't need a dictionary every time. Sometimes the meaning is right there in the sentence. And finally, we had a heart-to-heart about multitasking and how just 5 focused minutes can bring more progress than hours of distracted listening. These techniques aren't just ideas, they're tools. And if you start using even 1 or 2 of them in your daily practice, you'll feel the difference. Not overnight, but gradually, consistently, because language learning isn't magic. It's rhythm, it's repetition, it's care. It's about creating small, intentional moments where your brain connects, absorbs, and grows. But I also want you to know something else. Even when you feel stuck, even when it seems like everyone else is improving faster, even when you forget words you thought you already knew, you are making progress. Yes, you are. Every time you choose to listen instead of giving up, every time you say, I didn't understand everything, but I got the idea, every time you keep going, even when it feels hard, that is what real learners do. That is what fluency is built on. Not perfection, persistence. So, my final message for you today is this: keep listening, keep learning, and most of all, keep believing in yourself. Your English doesn't have to be perfect to be powerful. You don't need to understand every word to understand the message. You don't need to do it all today, but if you do a little, every day, that's more than enough. And I'll be right here, every step of the way. This is the English Talk community. I'm David, and it's been an honor to spend this time with you. Wherever you are, whatever your level, your voice matters, your journey matters. So until next time, keep your ears open, your heart strong, and your confidence growing. Talk to you soon.